of you. Is this visible? If you can tell me, I will continue.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll be taking about 40 minutes to 45 minutes. And afterwards, I think we can have more discussion because a lot of discussion is happening. And people will be, having some good part of NEP, which has been released by the committee, which was, appointed by our Honorable Prime Minister. The topic which I have taken is basically called holistic education in NEP 2020. It is one part of NEP basically to look at what is the principle which they are actually going through. And when you look at the vision with which actually this has been done, you see that it actually the education according to this particular committee says one should, be proud to be in Indian, not only in thought, but also in spirit, intellect and deeds. It's a very fantastic, holistic way of creating students who actually respect our Indian values, as well as develop knowledge, skills and values and dispositions that support responsible commitment to human rights, sustainable development and living, and global well-being, thereby reflecting a truly global citizen. So if you try to look at the whole vision, based on this particular foundation, starting from primary school up to the higher education, all the rules and regulations which are the guidelines which they are going to give it are based on these. So every word, every sentences actually go through this. And basically, if you try to look at what are the envisages that they are going to do, they are the fundamental. They are trying to teach the students from primary level and under kindergarten the fundamental duties and constitution values, bonding with one's country, and a conscious awareness of one's roles and responsibilities in changing the world. Today, actually, we talk about what are the rights we have, but there should be a conscious awareness according to this particular committee about one's roles and responsibilities in changing the world. So, what is our responsibility? That has to be taught in the schools itself. Okay, what are the basic foundation principles? Is in the students, they would like to identify the capabilities and strength of each child and nurture it. Basically, we always say that my child should become an engineer, my child should become a doctor, or my child should become a lawyer, etc. Instead of that, you try to identify the capabilities and strength of each child and nurture it. And then give an emphasis on conceptual understanding. So no more by hearting, no more coaching classes. So people should understand the concept properly. And then there should be a creativity and critical thinking of life skills. See, please look at the life skills is actually given a lot of emphasis in the new education policy. So they say that whatever you learn, it should be applicable to life skills. It is just not learn mathematics and don't use mathematics in your life. How much mathematics is there for the life, that should be learned, and again try to learn it such a way that it is applied in the life skills. So the creativity should come, critical thinking should come, no by hearting. These are all basically called higher level of learning according to Bloom's. And then, of course, very, very important, ethics, human and constitutional values. All of us know that this is the one which actually we are finding a gap now. People become highly knowledgeable in terms of, the education, but their, position in ethics and human and constitutional values will be really, doubtful. And then extensive use of technology and helping Divang students. Basically, use of technology is not only for Divang students. Basically, they say use the technology wherever you want to teach something. And I think during pandemic, immediately a few institutions or few universities switched over seamlessly to online teaching. And now coming to the Divang students, basically, if any use of technology is required, they say that use the maximum use of technology. And I think a lot of discussion can go on that, so I will not take much time on this. And respect for diversity and local context. This is also very, very important. It is not that unanimously and unitedly you have to project only one particular culture or something. Respect the diversity. India has got so many languages and so many diversified religions, etc. and all that. So respect the diversity and also the local context should be your lot of things. Then full equity and inclusion as well. So everybody is included, nobody is left out, no caste and creed discrimination or discrimination because of the money or something like that. And similarly, students are and teachers are as centers of focus. So the entire thing actually looks at students and teachers. Basically, many people say that it is student learning, student-centric learning now in NEP, but actually it gives a lot of emphasis for the teachers also because they go together. Though they are actually the center of focus, the parents and the society are also coupled together, which I'll be taking up a little later in my slides. There is another thing which people we need to understand. There is no hard separation between arts and sciences now. So it is going to be merged. Anybody studying engineering also need to actually study some part of arts which he loves and likes. Also maybe sports or maybe something else. So these are coupled together. And similarly, arts people are not related to only the liberal arts, but they can actually learn some part of sciences in it. For example, I will tell you something. Somebody is learning liberal art, maybe the artistic, picture drawing or whatever it is, artistic thing. He may be given an, course where actually he may be learning like how to actually restore old art forms using science or using technology. So these are the things which they will be trying to couple together. So there is no hard separation between arts and sciences. Achieving fundamental literacy and numeracy, as our honorable Prime Minister keeps telling that fundamental literacy and numeracy should be increased, and they are actually targeting to have nearly about 100% literacy and 100% numeracy in 2030 itself. And flexibility and multidisciplinary, let the courses be highly flexible. A student wants to actually switch over from one area to another area, should be there, and of course it should be multidisciplinary. And this is very, very important. They say that the framework is going to be light but tight. This is a wording which actually Kasturi Rangan keeps on telling the chairman of this particular committee. The regulations ought to be light. That means it is not actually completely office oriented or something like highly rule oriented. They are going to make it light but the tight, because they say that okay, these are the minimum things an institute should have, or a teacher should have, or a student should possess before they come out. Those will be made very strict on that. And multilinguistic approach, I think this is a very, very important thing which Honorable Prime Minister and the committee has already foreseen it. People actually, or a lot of oppositions are also there, like when the three language, the policy has been released, or they say that new education policy looks for three education approach or three language to be given in schools. Some of the states and some of the other people are questioning that, are you imposing one particular language to us? It is not so. I'll be taking up that part also maybe during discussion as well. And formative assessment in place of summative assessment. Basically, in a summative assessment, you will have one exam, and finally you should look at how the student is performing in that particular exam. Now, in a formative assessment, the examination is not as a part of examination. It is continuously starting from the day he attends the classes. So there could be some activity, there will be some marks for the activity, there will be small tests, and these tests will also carry some marks, etc., and so on. And of course, for all this, they use the technology. And basically, artificial intelligence is coming into picture in assessment, which maybe I'll take up little later if anybody has some interesting discussion to have it. And continuous reviews to be made, and outstanding research is given a lot of importance, and rootedness and pride in India. I just love this basically, that you become an educate and you start hating Indian standards or Indian culture, etc. That will not be there. Basically, you need to educate the children at their school age itself that they should have pride in India and they should have some rootedness in India. So these are the basic foundations principles in education policy. Now let me just look at how this new education policy has come through. Padma Vibhushan Dr. Kasturi Rangan committee was formed on the National Education Policy in 2019 by then called MHRD. And the committee considered about 2 lakh suggestions taken from all stakeholders from Gram Panchayat level up to district level up to national level. And of course, actually, this was published in English only. And within another 1 month, they published in 18 languages of Indian languages, and then they distributed all along. And this was also hosted on the cloud. So anybody could read it and also give their suggestions. Just look at that, one committee actually receiving about 2 lakh suggestions. And one may wonder, how did they actually go through this suggestion and how much of that is absorbed? I think I'll take up for discussion a little later again. And this draft was placed in the feedback for MHRD website, and the feedback given are considered, and the new draft was placed in the Cabinet of Government of India recently in July 2020, and the Cabinet approved it immediately. And this needs to be placed in both the houses as the bills, and after passing them, NEP 2020 will become the act. And there are a lot of hopes in this. Let us see what are the basics. These are the structures we have seen, the history we have seen. Now let us look at the overall structure, how they are trying to look at. Look here, they are looking for 100% gross enrollment ratio in school education by 2030. What do you mean by gross enrollment ratio? Suppose I take a primary school, the dropouts from primary school to the secondary school, let me say, is about 3% or 4% or 5%. That should be reduced and it should be brought to 100%. And this is not just school education. They are in fact targeting up to, what is called PUC, or what we call PUC or +2 or something like that. And there will be a national curricula framework for school education called NFSC 2021. This will be developed by NCERT and will be given to all the other types of boards. People will ask the question that like whether our state board will be existing, whether our ICICA will exist, whether our the other the courses will, the boards will exist. Of course all these will exist, but NCERT will be actually giving a framework. Based on this framework they can make small changes and then they can go ahead. Now what is the change? Basically a few of you are the public will have some sort of confusion. Look here, at present the schooling starts at 6 years or 5.5 years or so. Now basically schooling is going to start at 3 years itself. So 3 years of Anganwadi is becoming mandatory, and plus 2 years of primary school called grade 1 and grade 2, what we call first standard and second standard. Now we call it as grade 1 and 2. So that will be there after 3 years. 3 years child will come there. So 2 years, 3-year child will be up to 6 years. They will be in Anganwadi in different stages. And another 2 years, they will complete primary school grade 1 and 2. So by the time the age of the kid will be around 8. What is that stage called? It is called foundational stage. Next, they have 8 to 11, that is grade 3 to 5, that is standard number 3, third standard to fifth standard. So the age is 8 to 11, and this is called preparatory stage. And then grade 6 to 8, or 6th class or 6th standard to 8th standard, the age is 11 to 14, and it's called middle stage. And then 14 to 18, there are 2 stages here, again grade 9 to 10 and grade 11 to 2. The questions many people ask is, are there going to be SSLC board? Are there going to be PUC board? I think we can also have a discussion on that. Looking at that, there will be not much change in terms of boards or something, because NEP doesn't talk about boards. First of all, they only say how the structure can be done, so that during foundation what is to be taught, during preparatory what is to be taught, during middle stage what is the total content, and what the preparation has to be done in the secondary stage before this kid actually comes to graduation, that is for the degree. Now look at basically there is something called early childhood care and education. I have used a lot of cartoons from the internet, and I am thankful to all the internet free cartoons which are available. So I've used it, and I've shown a very good picture here. Consciously I've chosen education should become fun now. It is never actually going to be completely a sort of punishment. It is going to be a fun. So there is going to be something called early childhood care and education policies coming through. So the basis is 85% of the child's cumulative brain prior to of age 6 will be done in 85% of the child's cumulative brain development will happen below age 6. So that is the reason why the new education policy, targeting the people at age of 3 years. Appropriate care and stimulation of the brain would ensure healthy brain development and growth. So therefore, give a good foundation. And again, it is not that again make the students or the kids to learn only alphabets, only numerals, or identify this, etc. It is going to be a holistic development. I will tell you what I mean by holistic development by taking a few more slides. And look at here, this ECE ideally consists of flexible, multifaceted, multi-level, please understand, play-based, activity-based, inquiry-based learning, and comprising of alphabets, language, numbers, counting, color, shapes, indoor and outdoor play, puzzles, logical thinking, problem solving, drawing, painting, and other visual art, craft, drama, puppetry, music, and movement. Now you may wonder, maybe already it is there in our kindergarten. Many of our so-called highly placed schools are already doing it. But this is going now to be compulsory and also made mandatory for all the people who were, they are come from rural area or, the urban area and so on. And of course, there is going to be a framework for all that. Just not for making money, you will have these activities and then do something, etc. and go on. There is going to be something called, a holistic approach. So everybody has to go through, there will be a framework. And that framework is early childhood care and education. And now come to school education. Keep enjoying this. Expected outcome from early childhood care education. What are the expected outcomes? Look here, I have shown some more cartoons here, and I have never shown a cartoon where the kid is actually studying in a classroom. They are doing some activities, they are in the sports, they are enjoying the outdoor activities, etc. and so on. Now let me show some of these. Physical and motor development. I think all of you understood what I mean by motor developments. The motor developments look at the development of a kid to actually reach out his limbs, reach out the arms, and reach out the entire body, and try to learn the body language, etc. and so on. So those are the motor movements and physical movements will be taught in the school education. I think you may be wondering now we are not talking about learning through the books. First of all, we are looking at physical and motor development, cognitive development. This is very, very important. A kid will be given an imaginary situation and the kid has to come out with innovative solution for it or innovative thinking for it, and it is a parallel thinking which is actually been given as a thing importance. Next, socio emotional ethical development. One is a kid should become highly social, so the kid will be able to talk to anyone and become emotional so that they start loving the teacher, they start loving the kids, I mean neighbors, they also respect the neighbors, parents, everything. And of course, there should be an ethics which actually will be taught in the school, of course, to be supported by the parents at home. And then the cultural and artistic development. A lot of cultural artistic development will be done, and the development of communication and early language for the kids. This is where actually there will be communication skills, maybe through maybe through the speaking, maybe through the writing, etc., and so on. So look here, nearly about 1, 2, 3, 4 quantities are the 4 terms which I am giving as an outcome or completely holistic development. The last one which says communication early language, it automatically comes as an integral part of all this. Anyway, and then literacy and numeracy, of course, it's a inherent part of all this. So these are the expected outcome from Charlie Childhood Care and Education, ECC. Now, when you look at the school education, look at again, I have taken 2 photographs. One photograph, you see the Anganwadi students being given some activity. Another photograph with the midday meal and all that. Now, there is some addition to it. What are those addition? Strengthening infrastructure of Anganwadis. And this is why actually the government, the education policy says that 6% of the total, growth should be actually, going to this one. I think I'll discuss it a little later. Strengthening the infrastructure of Anganwadis. Many a time Anganwadis, especially in the rural area, are being run in small sheds where there is no proper facility. Now there is going to be a lot of money pumping in for that. Training to teachers and caretakers for Anganwadi so that they understand the kids' psychology, they become themselves, upgraded and so on. And special consideration strengthen Anganwadi system in villages and remote places where, really about 60 to 70% of our kids are coming from. And midday meal to be continued for 3 years for Anganwadi and 2 years for primary school. I'll tell you something more. It is just not midday. I'll be coming to later. The government is actually planning to give even the morning breakfast so that when you give the morning breakfast to the kids, the blood circulation will be better with higher oxygen content and their learning will be much better. We keep telling our kids, our own students that do not come hungry for the classes, and that's the same principle which they are trying to do, and a lot of funding is actually reserved for it. And this is very important, participation from parents and public in showcasing the activities. What new education policy says, every 2 months once, there should be a sort of showcasing of the students' talents to the public through the parents. So the public also will become an immense party of it, and parents also will become an integral part of this study at Anganwadi. So all put together, they are going to showcase it. So some sort of importance will be coming to the student. Now, what about teacher training basically? So if you look at the early school, thing, teachers with 10+2 qualification will be given 6 months certificate training. This is basically for the Anganwadi teachers which I am speaking about. So if Anganwadi teachers are 10+2 qualification, there will be 6 months certificate training. What all the training will contain? Understanding the kids' psychology, number 1. And then all those skills which you need to transfer to the kids will be taught to them also. Other teachers with lower qualification will not be removed, will be given 1 year diploma training, and this becomes mandatory. And continuous mentoring and review of the learning by teachers. So this is very important. They are not going to give training at the one level and leave it. Every year they have to go through some refresher courses and then exchange their ideas. It's not just learning, it is exchange of their ideas. In longer term, state government will come out with the framework of ECCE, teacher training and cadre. Initially that NCERT part and ECCE also will give it. Later the state government can look at what is the local context, and based on that, they can actually come out with ECCE, teacher training and cadre. And participation from parents and public is very, very important. That again goes through even in the teacher training also. Now look at the tangible credits to the society. What is that? The whole new education policies look at tangible credits to the society. I have shown another cartoon here showing some development. Of course, the development actually should not leave your, the nature devastated. So I have shown some sort of nature, that is a river and fish, aqua, etc. are shown. Increase in literacy in the nation, books and e-books given free for all needy students, and library to be established in all villages and Gram Panchayat. This is where actually the government is looking at having e-library as well as one library for one village, where not only the newspapers will be there, lot of extra learning, the material also will be given for the people to learn about it. See, for example, if there could be books on agriculture, there could be magazine on, the carpentry, etc., and so on. Inclusion of breakfast, which I told you earlier, to the needy students in the midday meals, so that malnutrition is addressed, and this facility to be continued even during vacation. This is one more, very strong recommendation by NEP 2020. Hand-holding for slow learners and thus reducing the dropout. This is very important. Many a time the students are simply dropped out, but there are actually some rules at present. They say that there should be no failures till fifth standard and everybody is passed. It is not going to happen like that. There is going to be some sort of identify the slow learners, handhold it, bring it to that level, and then promote it. So the dropout may be there, but it is going to be reduced. Ambitious target of gross enrollment ratio to be raised to 100% from preschool to the secondary level by 2030. This I think I discussed earlier itself. Now, what is a holistic, integrated, enjoyable, and engaging? You can see that there is a hand holding happening here in the photograph which I have shown. So there will be increase in literacy, books and e-books, inclusion of breakfast, and again coming to the school education in the additional features. You look here, it is going to be holistic, integrated, enjoyable, and engaging. So you are actually seeing a particular laboratory type of school here, where the people are given a lot of model making exercises, explore a lot of explore things will be happening, and this is where actually you will be having an integrated, holistic thing. So holistic with outcome-based student-centric approach, it is going to be student-centric. Student will learn what they love, and student will be made to learn what they love, and they will be made to also love what they want to actually innovate. And then experiential learning, like what photograph is being showing, and reduce curriculum and critical thinking. And curriculum is going to be reduced. The whole curriculum which you are going to make it, that is going to be reduced, but critical thinking is going to be increased. Please do not read it as reduce curriculum and critical thinking. Reduce curriculum with increased critical thinking. That is what I mean by that. Importance for nurturing cultural, sports, and other soft skills. So every kid has to actually demonstrate and nurture whatever the inner talents are there, so they'll become more expressive. And in fact, this is the way actually they try to develop the left side of the brain and right side of the brain. And at present, most of us are going towards more of right side brain improvement in terms of what is called the language or something like engineering skills, etc., and so on. But now we need to develop on the other end also. Okay. Now, multilingualism is another very important concept which actually the NEP is going to talk about. The importance for mother tongue and local language is going to be given, and therefore a lot of they say that preferable education in the vernacular medium up to grade 5. This is not compulsory anyway. They are going to say that if possible, try to give them, and of course it is extended up to grade 8 also. 3 language practice is to be continued. In I think Karnataka we have 3 language practice. In a few of them, 3 language may not be strictly followed, but now they are going to say that any 3 languages can be taken. Not that it could be that, but teaching and learning material should be made available in all languages, and Sanskrit and foreign languages also to be offered in the school level itself, so that the kids actually would like to learn something better. I mean, other languages as well can also be learned. Now, coming to the NCERT and other things, you look at national curriculum framework is to be prepared by NCERT. Board examination for 10th and 12th will be continued. People ask a lot of questions on it, but it will be continued. Examinations are only on core competency and will be made easier. And what I expect is basically at present you have 100 marks for the entire thing. This may be reduced maybe to 70-30 or even 50-50 also. But this will be come out with NCFCE little later. And National Assessment Center will be coming, and this is called PARAK, Performance Assessment Review Analysis Knowledge of Holistic Development. They will give the guidelines that how do you actually evaluate the learning of a student or the outcome of a learning. Okay. And then emphasis on the teacher training. This is high emphasis is there. So there is going to be a 4-year B.Ed program. Teacher eligibility tests are going to be conducted. Continuous evaluation and training to the teachers will be done. Service rules to encourage performance-based appraisal. It's not going to be just an experience now. There is going to be appraisal will be on the performance-based. So people have to perform and then showcase. And teachers for training soft skills are to be recruited, and they will be trained also on that. And again, National Professional Standard for teachers will be established by 2022. This will give the overall guideline, like what should be the total standard for the teachers when they come to teaching. This will set a guidelines for teacher appointment, and school will also be accredited. This is one more important. At present, accreditation is being done for higher education institutions, HEIs. Now this will come down to the school level. And the school level also will be ranked again based on the parameters which we see here now. There will be vocational education. This is also very important thing. At least 50% of the learners from the school and higher education system will undergo vocational training with the help of local ITS industries, etc. Lot of questions people are asking, where do you give vocational education for the kids from rural? I think I will have a discussion little later. And then 10 days in a month, bagless day for the children to learn carpentry, gardening, pottery, etc. And this is where actually the answer is there for the question which I just asked you now. Now the higher education, this is important for us again, increase the gross enrollment ratio from 26.3% in 2018, what we have, to 50% by 2030. And people say it is highly ambitious, but it is possible if everyone joins hand. It is just not by government or policymakers, it will be possible. There should be holistic multidisciplinary education. Again, and I'm telling you, it's going to be holistic again. Undergraduate education integrated with exposure to science, arts, humanities, mathematics, and professional fields. So it is just not, complete pumping of entirely only technical or medical or law or whatever it is. It's going to be interdisciplinary. And multi-level entry and exit. This is one very, very important. Suppose any student which he joins a 3-year degree program, maybe like BA or BCom, after 1 year, he wants to actually quit and take a certificate, he will be given 1 year certificate. After 2 years, if he is unable to continue for whatever the reason, he can get and go out with a diploma. And after the 3 year, he may get a degree. And similar thing will be done for 4-year courses also. Again, people will ask a question whether B will become a 4-year to 3-year. No, it may not or need not. It will be 4 years only, and similar things will also be done over there. There is another important thing here. Suppose a student get a 1-year certificate and go away, he can come back for the 2nd year and get a diploma also based on that certificate. At present, if I by any chance, maybe because of family problem or because the student was not performing well, and if he continues for 3 to 4 years, 5 years, he would have given not fit for the course and then sent out. So he would have gone empty. Now this is a very important thing. Student will have some, thing. Undergraduate will be either 3 or 4 years duration. And this is again one more important. Academic bank of credit will be done. So this ABC is what? For example, a student actually is studying a particular course with some credit, maybe 3 credits. He gets A grade. This will be actually stored in the cloud in higher education department or whatever it is. So this can be carried on from one course to another course, that is interdisciplinary. Also from one institution to another institution where the institutions are on par with it. And this is very important. Something like, I can also get academic bank of credit, not only by studying in a school or a college. See, for example, NPTEL courses are there. I will take NPTEL courses, which will be having some credit, and I get some, grade that will be counted in the academic bank of credit. This I can actually, encash in my own institution as a student. See, I have already done this credit, and please add this credit to my, total credits. So this is another advantage of it. It's a very, very thing. Now the multidisciplinary education is going to be done, and what government is thinking of, they want to actually come out with MERUs. What is MERU? Multidisciplinary Education and Research Universities on par with IITs and MMs. Of course, they say even IIT MM also will become multidisciplinary, but apart from that, highly multidisciplinary should be done with some institutions like this. Rationalized educational architecture will be coming out. Research intensive universities will be made. Teaching intensive universities will be classified. Autonomous degree granting universities will be classified. And affiliation to be phased out by 15 years of target duration. What do you mean by that? Any college which has got affiliated to one university, they should become accredited, and also they should become autonomous within 15 years of target. So the affiliation is going to be reduced. This is what actually the whole dream of that. Now there is something called National Research Foundation, NRF. This is going to be a framework where people are looking at, the government is looking at research culture to be promoted in college and universities at that level. Financial support for the students should be given. Open and distance learning will be given, and a lot of resources which are developed or maintained in the research foundation will be freely available to all the teachers. There should be an internationalization will be happening also in this. And effective governance in colleges, of course, there is a big chapter on how the governance should be there in colleges and universities. Who all should be there in the governing body? Who all should be there in the academic body? How many times they should meet? What type of directives should be given? What is their vision? What is their mission? And how do they go about, etc. and all. It will not become a namesake anymore now. If at all, if there are a few of them are namesake now. So this is going to be a holistic type of approach. And then there are some changes in front of UGC, AICTE, and already I think Medical Council has been restructured. What are those changes? Look here, Higher Education Commission of India, HECI is going to come. This will be for the promotion of higher education in India, and Higher Education Grants Commission, which is equivalent to our UGC. This will be standard setting General Education Council, and AICTE and UGC merged together will come to HEGC. National Accreditation Council, so only one accreditation is going to happen. This is for accrediting all HEIs, and National Higher Education Regulatory Council, NHERC. What is not shown here is going to be the law and medicine. These two have a different, boards. I think in the medicine already they have broken down that IMRC into many 3 or 4 institutions. I think already you know it. And all the regulatories will be easy but tight, as I said earlier. Now there will be something called National Technology Education Forum, NTEF. So this is actually a forum where the technology will be there on the cloud. It will actually help free exchange of ideas, technology enhanced learning, assessment, planning, and administration will be happening. And HVS will have flexibility to offer 2 different designs in the master degree program. What are those? There are 2-year programs with second year devoted entirely to research, those who completed the 3-year bachelor's program. Students completing a 4-year bachelor program with research could be only 1-year master degree program, and there may be an integrated 5-year bachelor's degree program, and undertaking a PhD shall require either a master degree, but a 4-year degree, bachelor degree with research also can be taken. And look here, MPhil program is to be discontinued. There will be no more MPhil program. These are the major structure changes what are going to happen in the master degree. I'll take just 2 more minutes. I know that there is going to be time, enhancing, limited. Inviting students from foreign countries is going to happen. So they are going to permit renowned foreign universities to open their campuses in India, but not for all. Initially, foreign universities that are listed within 100 in the global ranking will be permitted to operate from India. They can have off-campus or can also have collaboration with Indian universities here. Permitting Indian universities to have their campuses in foreign land, provided certain ranking and accreditation is achieved. At present, A plus and A plus plus institutions are considered for permitting them to also offer some education abroad. Now, looking at the online education also is coming through. Already there are about 6 universities which actually are recognized by Government of India to provide online and digital education and adult education to reach about 100% youth and adult literacy and promotion of Indian languages, as I keep on telling. And it will also include, a lot of emphasis on the Indian languages as well. Now, financing, basically, if you try to look at, is very, very important. They say that there should be no profit mode operation, but of course, you need to actually get some sort of amount for further growth. And fee regulatory actions will come into picture. 6% of GDP to be reserved for education. This is very, very high from any government. The previous government, if you consider, the present government is thinking of giving 6% of GDP. This shows, what type of vision they have to actually for the education. This is very important, and as teachers, we should be very happy for that. And of course, as parents as well. Central Advisory Board for Education will be strengthened, and MHRD has already been changed to Education Department. This is all from me, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And of course, there was a small, this thing, time shortage. I think now it will be open for discussions, please.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I have one question now.
Yeah, please tell me.
Sir, from when is the new education policy applicable?
Okay, this is the question which people are asking continuously, when this is going to be implemented. To be very frank, even before this has been, made from it has not been passed as an act. Part of this already started implemented. See, for example, you saw the Medical Council, which has been already disintegrated. Now, regarding UGC, merging is happening from 2021 onwards, and therefore, from 2021 onwards, as soon as it becomes an act, holistic, develop a holistic application of this will happen. But in principle, they are already bringing a change in, whatever the concepts have been given, already started implementing. And if some of the universities like Amity University here, we got some, hint like, we got also some letters from UGC and AICTE telling that we can actually give a proper, inputs for all those, how this can be implemented stage-wise. So any other question, please?
Sir, one more question I have, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, is there any common format for application form to get admission for sponsor according to NEP?
I think it was not audible. Can you just come out again, please?
Sir, is there any common format in NEP application form to get admission?
I think audio is not clear. There is any form for what? Somebody can actually take it and tell me what is the actual question. I'm not.
Any format?
Hello, sir.
Sir, is there any common format?
Any common format for?
Application form to get admissions in school, sir.
Oh, I understand.
According to NEP.
Yeah. So I'll come to that. This is one problem at present which people are thinking. At present, in many of the what you call preliminary schools and other things, they have some sort of passing to be done, etc. NEP clearly says that every child is actually having its own strength, his own or her own strength, and therefore everybody should be admitted to the schools. But of course, if the limited number of seats are available, they may actually go with some sort of random selection rather than performance selection. There will be no performance selection at all. It should be random. Pick a lot and then try to admit. But they are going to actually, because of the 6% GDP which they are going to give out, what they try to make is basically they are going to improve number of government schools, and many of the private schools will be given aid also. That's what I'm just foreseeing, or they will be taken over by the government if the private management wishes to give it. This is a very good move. Yes, ma'am, it's a good question. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. Sir, are you audible, sir? Yes, sir. Right now in higher education, we are following this NBA and NAC accreditations. Will the same criteria will be like suitable for all this after application of this NEP?
No, they are going to merge it. Actually, I recently published one paper on comparative performance of NAC and NBA. What I did is, for so many years, whatever the NAC accreditation has been done by the same institution, NBA accreditation also has been done. I took the entire data and with the help of my, the data science people here, some of the students, I analyzed completely and then try to find out there is something interesting which I want to tell you.
Yes,
see, for example, I have found some colleges which have got in NBA, let me say about 6-year or 5-year accreditation. Means it is very good. The NAC has graded astonishingly less than B sometimes, and the other way also. Now, in the NAC, what you see and what in NBA you see, there are two different teams, although the principles are same. And there is one more paper which I am going to write and show. The academics will have 30% to 35%, the weightage in NAC and NBA. Research is going to have 30%, weightage in the NBA and as well as in the NAC. But when you try to look at, one has got 7 criteria, other has got 10 criteria, and one of them is a program-oriented, accreditation. Another one is institution one. See, for example, NAC will give for the institution. NBA will go for program one. Now these two will be merged together. They are going for now program-based accreditation only, according to my understanding, because it is more focused, and the institutions have to show a particular performance for a particular thing. It is not that I have a very weak department, but the whole institution has been given A+ and you carry with it. It's not possible. So it is going to be a merged one, and I think in 2021 when they actually merge it to HCUG, immediately that will be the guidelines will come through. And I was told actually that already the merging is happening in an internal way, looking at who are the best people in both of them, combine them together and work out the framework. The idea of the government basically is to make a framework first and then only release it. That's a good idea actually. Thank you, ma'am, for this question.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Sir, nice presentation, sir. Nagendra here again.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I have a small question. You talked about the holistic education from the school point of view. That is, learn in a fun way or activity-based way. Exactly. But the same emphasis in the higher education, as you know, is not so prominent or obvious. So, what is the policy content in that context, sir? Activity-based learning, they should have more emphasis, isn't it, sir?
Yes. Basically, I will tell you. I actually, I also worked with Coventry University, UK for developing some of the modules for them. And they have 50% theory for all the subjects in engineering, and 50% of that theory is completely in practice. This is going to come in NEP. It has very clearly given the content of the curriculum will come down. Means, suppose I say you have thermodynamics from 30 hours of total thing, this teaching is going to be reduced to 15 hours. The remaining 15 hours is only practice. That is number one. Number two, what they say in the NEP for higher education, though it is not very clearly given, in between sentences, if you read, it says that a student can opt 30% of the subjects away from his own area. See, for example, an engineering student who is doing in mechanical can take 30% of the courses in art, science, culture, or even, any other type of thing. So this is actually in between lines. They don't say actually that you can have this. And again, they say the evaluation of these examination, they are not going to be summative. This is going to be formative. What does it mean? There will be a lot of activities. Suppose I say you give a mini project for a student, assess the mini project, and that will become a sort of activity field one. So they actually very specifically mentioned and in the primary school, but actually it has come to the other end. I mean to the higher level also. There's a question from Professor Sangappa. Professor Sangappa sir, I think you typed something. Can you unmute and ask also? I think if you are unmuted, if you can unmute. I just saw a question by Professor Sangappa. I have one question. Please type it also, sir. I can read if you cannot. And I'm thankful to our Swamangada sir, treasurer of Kamavari Sangam. He is a mentor for me. Many times he has, patted my back and then encouraged me to grow. Thank you very much, sir, for coming here. It gives me an immense pleasure actually to deliver something in front of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for hearing your wonderful this one on the NEP, sir.
Thank you so much.
I heard, I've seen many of the speeches and deliberations done by various people, but the amount of information what you put it across to the mainly for educational area is wonderful and awesome, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Sangappa sir, anybody else who has some questions can please post now.
Good morning, sir. Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
yes, please. Yeah.
Can I ask? I'm Dr. Mrinalini Menon from the Biotech Department of Serum VIT.
Yes,
I just wanted to know a little more about what you said in terms of, there was already a question that was raised, what about higher education and the elements of holistic education in that realm, and also creativity and so on being introduced. I just wanted to know, with respect to these elements, whether any university as of now has started implementing what can be termed as elements of the new education policy.
See, basically, I will tell you, after coming to the North Zone here, I find many universities already started with credit-based, the choice-based credit system, even before actually Government of India, proposed it. So similarly, I also see a lot of universities where I'm interacting with now after coming over here. Many of them are already implemented in practice. Most of these are, at least a few of these. See, for example, few of this. Can you hear me? Yeah. What I'm telling is, see, for example, one of the university recently I gave a presentation, and there I found that 30% of the theory subjects are coupled with basically practices. 30% of theory are already with the practices. Means, suppose if they are teaching, like 10 subjects, 3 subjects will have practice along with the theory also. So this is made compulsory. So few of them in principle have already started implementing or already done it also. And of course, remember, this is not a new thing which they are coming out. This they have studied such universities and then evolved in India as well as in abroad.
Yeah, in the West, in fact, some of these concepts have already been implemented, as we understand, at school level. And we have many universities there which are termed as liberal arts, etc.
Yeah. Yes, actually, liberal arts is going to be now given very good importance now.
Okay.
Can I ask others to please mute? Anima ma'am, Anima, please mute. There is a lot of disturbance coming from. Okay. The question is
Yeah.
actually, what about liberal arts? Inclusion of liberal arts in other courses. See, please remember, at present, actually, the employment for the people for the liberal arts was very less because people, like teachers of the liberal arts were, always looked down. But now people have started understanding liberal arts is going to play a major role in, creating or developing your left side of the brain. See, for example, as an engineer, for me, look, suppose I say I want to build a building. And unless my imagination comes through, I cannot come out with beautiful designs. I may look at
Yes.
only, like a structure. But when you look at the beautiful design part, it has to be always linked. So that should be always, improvement. I think all of you know.
Aesthetics also play an important role
Yeah,
there.
exactly. And Albert Einstein, till the death, actually, he was a voracious, he was playing the violin, and he used to
Yeah.
discuss in many of the, meetings about the music only, not about his relativity theory, etc., and so on. There's a
Yeah.
question from Sangapa SB: do this multi-level, multidisciplinary entry and exit will reach the expected level of skill set and learning students as per the industry requirements? Yeah. This is one thing, actually, is a very good question, Sangappa sir, very nice. His question is, suppose I say I give a certificate after first year. What will we do with the certificate? Is it just for the certificate, or can he go and do something? Now, this is where basically the syllabus framing comes into picture. When we actually make a syllabus, taking all the people together, including industry, you need to make down that there is some sort of halts. See, for example, in the first year, you have to develop some sort of, like an outcome, and expected outcome of this will be eligible or make this student to go to this level. I'll take an example. Suppose I say you're teaching BCom. First year, the student says that I want to stop and then go away. Now, what are the outcomes of a BCom? Usually we say that he's a commerce graduate. He should be able to do this, number 1, 2, 3, etc. Maybe he is ready to take up some accounts or ready to do, more than accounting, charting, etc., and so on. So you divide them after first year, he'll be able to use the tools of, the commercial tools or the freely available tools to do some sort of, the accounting, and he will come out with a certificate, and that certificate says that, okay, he is good in accounting now and he is capable of making this particular level. Suppose he continues with the second level, it may go to the second level and so on. So that way the syllabus is going to be framed again. So it is not that the same syllabus will be continued and the multiple exit and multi-entry will be going on. And there is one advantage with multi-entry, I will tell you. Suppose I say as a student, I will take a break, I'll go to industry or I'll do my business and come back. Now I'm coming back with a rich experience of the life. It is something like an, like internship, and then I'm coming back. Now my learning will be much better. I have taught actually in the BMS Evening College of Engineering, about 17.5 years, where the students were actually the practicing engineers with a diploma. And I learned a lot from that. I owe to that particular institution that shaped my entire understanding, because every time I interact with my students, I learned a lot of practical things. Now that is what should happen. Many a time, many parents ask me, my kid has completed degree. Now, should I send him for a job or for higher studies? Many a time, my suggestion is, please put him to some job. Let me understand what is the concept, and you go to the next level. I think the question is discussed in detail. And any other, please?
Sir, I have one doubt regarding this.
Yes, ma'am.
Like you're talking about multidisciplinary, for example, the student who are studying engineering can do liberal arts or something else. So how we are going to implement this in, like, now in India, most of the colleges are on public sector, like self-financing colleges. So how will this be possible? Like I'm thinking about my kids. Suppose if they join in a private engineering college, how this will be possible? It is not like that is my question. So
Okay.
how like suppose they want to do some liberal arts, staying in a private engineering college, how can they do it?
Okay, I'll give a best example. How is at present the architecture classes are running? The architecture classes are running completely by giving maximum importance to the development of the left side of the brain, because they want more designs. So you see they're learning. See, for example, I taught actually in KSSEM Architecture College, the first year drawing classes. It is called engineering graphics. But actually the way we taught was something different. Whatever the drawing we are going to do, they are going to make models of it. Look outside, keep the drawing, come here, bring out the forms, etc., and so on. Now the question coming to how the liberal arts will be pumped into what you call engineering. And similarly, people also have a lot of questions. in one of the discussions I was continuing, they say that IITs become, famous or popular or, highly renowned just because you are giving more importance to engineering. I will tell you something more. All these people who come out with only engineering concepts are utter failures, including me, if I'm doing only engineering. So even in this particular one, even in IITs, if you go, there are a lot of already the courses, which courses are about 5 to 10%. You can actually choose from other branches of other branches of liberal arts as well. See, for example, the syllabus is going to be made, the curriculum is going to be made such a way that 30% of the curriculum has to be taken from outside your particular thing. See, for example, your engineering mechanical, take 30% outside. Okay, this is the way actually it should be done. And this is going to be made mandatory from university. It will percolate from higher level to lower level, again evolve from lower level to higher level. Already notices have been sent to universities like, what is your opinion, or what is your way, how do you bring it in, give your ideas. So this type of letters are coming to us, and many people are giving again more ideas. It is not that they say and we have to listen. You can give your own thing, and there is a flexibility also. There is one more thing which you need to understand. A particular university wants to say, I will take 30% liberal art and remaining, the 50% liberal art and 50%, architecture, engineering or medicine. And in fact, there is one thing which I was just reading in one of the article in the morning. A medicine institution want to actually club with engineering and arts also. The idea is very simple. The medicine and technology is already amalgamated. Though actually we learn differently, they are already amalgamated. See, for example, a person actually has to be replaced with the tooth or something. It is completely engineering. Now these people are coming out with what is called, amalgamation. Along with there is additional things which are coming through. So the answer for you in a very simple words, that the curriculum is to be developed and we should be implemented such a way at least 30% of your topics will be from liberal arts or from life skills. So this is how it is going to be done. I think I have answered your question.
Thank you, sir. Very well explained.
Thank you. I'm very happy that I got the maximum interaction from this particular topic. And although I have taken the same topic several times, I'm so happy, Dr. Supriya ma'am and the entire community from MVIT for making this so much, interactive. Any other, please? Then I think I can close also.
Is there any questions from the participant?
Madam, I'm Dr. S.K. Uma. I have a question, sir.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Sir, they are speaking of Indian knowledge system. How are they going to implement this, sir? From school level or curriculum in the higher education level?
No, it will be from school level. When they say Indian concepts or the Indian culture, they are going to get it from the school level. There is some writing which I have not shown here, which says the Anganwadi students should be taken in and around that particular village and explain them the history of those, the places which they are going through. If they are not going even away also, so that culture means the pride in their own. See, for example, a small village has got a small temple or a small mosque or a church or even a small, tank, water tank, talab or whatever it is. You take them for 1 day orientation, make them to sit there and learn. And similarly, agriculture. I think NEP actually gives a lot of importance for making people to learn agriculture. I think some of the schools have already implemented it. They make the students to actually go and plant and in the plantation, etc. And I also heard in Karnataka there is one school in Gajnuru. In one of the village. What they are making, each child has to plant one particular plant when they come to the primary school there, and has to nurture it till the kid goes away, or the kid actually passes from that particular school. But later again somebody else will take up. I think these are the one which will be implemented together.
Okay,
So it is.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Any other questions? Otherwise, Supriya ma'am, I think.
Yeah, 1 minute. Is there any questions from the participants?
Just one last question from me, sir.
Yeah, ma'am.
Mrinalini.
Yeah.
I inquired earlier about that interface between the engineering and other sciences and the liberal arts. I just wanted to, make sure that now this new education policy, sir, you also mentioned the Bloom's taxonomy pyramid. And now, as of now, the trend that I find is that there's a tendency for people to, all these years, only focus on the lower levels of the Bloom's taxonomy. Now, with the emphasis on the new education policy, is there a conscious effort to strive towards the higher levels, that is like L5 at the level of evaluation? Ability to analyze, evaluate, and create. Would that focus be strongly emphasized with this cross-disciplinary and multidisciplinary approaches? I just wanted to know.
It's a very good question, and in fact, I was expecting this question somewhere. But good, ma'am, Mrinalini ma'am, Dr. Mrinalini is very good actually. I think all of us have learned the outcome-based education and the basis of Bloom's taxonomy, starting from understanding and all that. And as you mentioned, Dr. Ma'am, Mrinalini ma'am, there is a lot of emphasis on the higher level of learning. And when they say that you are going to have an evaluation scheme, and this evaluation scheme on the formative assessment looks at higher levels of skills only. And of course, the memory and other things will be coming down. See, for example, today, if you give me an examination, I can just Google around or anything I can. So the memory is not very important, but it is also important, but not very important. So therefore, what actually the NEP says, you have to evaluate a person, a student learning by looking at what is this, the higher level, critical thinking.
Application onwards.
The application onwards, application and above, critical thinking and all that. But there is one small danger in that. See, for example, a student is not able to be expressive somewhere in between. The question somebody asked me, suppose, okay, if I start with the kid, they will develop. What about intermediate now? The people have never actually even thought of this particular thing. What about them? Even for them, you need to start, and this level of application and then assessment should be slightly reduced for them. See, for example, they are very good in the lower level of Bloom's, like application, below application. You should actually give some questions.
Remembering and understanding.
Yes, and then you should be taking slightly on the higher level. This is how it should go.
Yes, sir. So that focus will be more now with the new education policy.
Exactly. You are right, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks a lot.